Hello everyone, Jessica here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm using distress inks and some Lawn Fawn products to make a fun caramel apple themed card. So the technique that I'm going to use first for these distress inks is ink blending. I have these 3 different colors. I'm smushing the ink cube onto the silicone part of the glass media mat. That way I can really squish that ink into the dauber. And then I can go ahead and ink up that Bristol smooth cardstock that I'm using. It is cut down a little bit. I have a scrap piece that I'm going to use a little later. And there is something on this cardstock, that really dark spot. I don't know what that was. It could just have been a defect with the cardstock. But I'm going to cut that off anyways, so I'm not really too worried about it. And I'm going for a very caramely color. Once I have achieved the color that I want, I also add some water droplets with the straw of the distress sprayer. I'm trying to get more of a drip look. It didn't really work, but it did add some texture, which I'm okay with. And I'm just going to soak up that water with a paper towel. To cut this piece down, I'm going to draw on the back of the cardstock and then cut out that shape with my scissors. I'm going to make sure I do get that dark spot cut off. I'm going to round out some of the corner areas so they're not so sharp. And then I'm going to punch the bottom portion, the skinnier portion, with a Martha Stewart border punch. Now, who remembers this? These were like all the rage many years ago. So leave me a comment if you still have one or if you remember them. I don't have a whole lot of them anymore, but I still have this drip one. And I think I have used this for almost every Halloween fall card since I bought it. So it's tradition. And it's even that lovely green color. So I punched the bottom, so it's going to look like this is caramel dripping. Hopefully that's what it looks like anyways. So I have the Lawn Fawn Caramel Apples stamps and dies, and I'm going to stamp the caramel apple image with Amalgam ink, and this is the other piece of that Bristol smooth paper, the scrap piece that I'm using. I'm going to do some watercoloring with the distress inks now, and this isn't watercolor paper, it is Bristol smooth, but you can do the watercoloring with it. Just don't add too much water, else the paper will start to peel a little bit. So I start off with the Candied red and then go in with aged Mahogany. I'm going to let that one dry and then do the green one real quick with the Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. And then I'm going to add the same 3 colors that I used for the caramel on the apples and the stick. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just adding the ink to that silicone mat and picking it up with a water brush. And I'm not adding a whole lot of water to this at all. So I'm going to let those dry and then I'm going to die cut them. And then I'm also going to use the reverse rectangle stitch die. This creates a really fun border. But first I'm going to cut it with the dotted rectangle die. Now these 2 dies that I'm using are almost the same size. So now I'm going to use the sentiment that comes with the stamps. I'm going to use the whole thing. And I'm stamping that onto SSS Black Cardstock with the clear embossing ink. And I'm going to use my go-to white embossing powder, the Ranger White. And I'm using the coffee filter just to catch all that embossing powder, and it's easy for me to funnel them back into the little jar. Then I can heat it with my heat gun. Now I'm going to make a really cool background. So I have a piece of Canson watercolor. This is some rather just cheaper watercolor, but this stuff I think is great for doing the ink smushing. So I smushed down a bunch of that Candied Apple Red and the aged Mahogany, and then sprayed the distress sprayer, just plain water, over the top. Then I smushed the watercolor paper into that. It looks like blood splatter almost, actually. But then I heat set it, and now I'm going to go in with the green. Now, red and green will make brown. We all know that. The key to this, though, is to try to smush that green ink where there is no red ink. So you're going to get both different colors and not a whole lot of brown. And then I can heat set that. I have one more trick actually that I'll show in just a bit that'll make this look even better. But first I'm going to die cut it with the Lawn Fawn dot rectangle die. This is the largest one. And now I'm going to take that red ink again, this is Candy Apple, and just sponge around the outer edges. Brightening up that red, filling in any blank white spots. And then I'm also going to use the Mowed Lawn, because this is the more dark true green color. And it'll really stand out. The Twisted Citron didn't stand out a whole lot, but this one will really darken up all that green. And there you have it. So it's a red and green smushed ink, but that didn't turn to mud. Now I'm going to take the distress sprayer and I'm going to just tap the squeeze handle so that these really large droplets come out. I'm going to start drying these water droplets with my heat gun. And once I can see that the edges are drying, I can soak up the rest of that water, and you get some really large, harsh splatters, which is what I wanted. So off camera, I went ahead and adhered the scallop rectangle frame to a piece of slate cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And I also sandwiched the caramel ink blending piece that I had done earlier. And I'm going to place that right in the center of that background that I just did. So it's going to cover up that really large brown ink blend. So you're not going to see that. You'll just see the nice red and green outer edges. For the sentiment, I'm going to trim it down a little bit on the edges and then add fun foam behind it and adhere it to the lower, like the lower third of that panel. So now that the apples have dried, I'm going to use the Spectrum Noir glitter pen, this is the clear one, to glitter up the entire apple. Now this will reactivate the distress ink that I had watercolored with, so I do have a paper towel, the same one I've been using this entire time, and I'm just blotting off that glitter pen every now and then, especially when I switch colors between the green, the red, and the brown. That way it doesn't move them around too much. And then I can add a lot of glossy accents to these apples to make them really shine. And then you'll see just hints of that glitter behind it. I tried to adhere these earlier. They did take a really long time to dry because of all that glossy accents that I had added. And they weren't necessarily dry the first time. That's why you see a little bit of glue there. But I'm just using my multimedia matte glue and my tweezers to help adhere those right above the sentiments in the center of the card. And there you have it. That's it for this card, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You can connect with me on Instagram or email me directly or comment below with any questions you might have about card making. All the products I used today are linked on my blog. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to see the latest videos from me. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Meh, meh.